Going to call this meeting of the Gladstone City Commission on Monday, August 25th, 2014 at 7 p.m. to order. Invocation, Commissioner Matten. Invocation tonight. Please rise.
Shall we pray? Heavenly Father, we thank you for the opportunity to meet tonight. We thank you for the beautiful day you've given to us. And Father, you are so good to us in so many ways. And Father, as we look tonight at the agenda and the issues that are before us, we just pray that we'll look at it with open hearts, open minds, and with your discernment, we'll make good decisions for this community. We ask and pray these things in Jesus' name.
Amen. Pledge of allegiance to the flag
Of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
It's in your pile? Oh, okay. City clerk is on vacation. Our zoning and community development director is subbing for the city clerk. So would Renee call the order, please? Or the roll call, please?
Commissioner Bostwick,
Here.
Commissioner Gay,
Here.
Commissioner Mattinen,
Here.
Commissioner Nemechek, and Mayor Mackey.
Here. Under public comment, recognition of service, we're going to recognize two gentlemen who recently retired, both from our electric department. Tom White, who was our electric department superintendent for like 20 and a half years. Pretty close, eh? Remember when you were hired. And Mike Snort, who retired as a journeyman lineman with, I'm going to say about 15 years of service, I think? 13 years. Well, it says right on the plaque. So, how are we going to do this?
He's not able to be with us tonight, but wanted, definitely to give him the recognition of, serving with us. So we do have a plaque for Mike Snort. I will make sure he gets that.
Okay.
And Tom White is with us tonight, so.
You came just get your picture taken with the commission, didn't you?
No.
Yeah, right.
Gee, such honesty. Remember, we control your retirement check. Okay.
No, they do.
Write a note, Tom White. Anyways, so we're going to do a picture taking ceremony? What do we do?
Yeah.
Okay.
Do you mind your picture taking?
I want all commissioners to stand up here.
Oh, you do?
Yes, I do. Your best smile, Tom.
Yeah.
Oh, he comes back. Yeah, last time he passed, did he?
Just informed us what your forwarding address is,
Maybe to win back in
Be really friendly, Tom.
That'd be the first time, huh?
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Congratulations.
I'd be happy to autograph that picture for you, Tom. I'll catch you after the meeting. Sounds good.
Very good, but we do appreciate many years of dedicated service and wish you a long and happy retirement. Okay, moving on. We are still on public comment. If there is anybody who'd like to address the city commission, please take the stand, address, identify. You don't need. We know who you are, Mr. Husby.
I got a certified letter about my boat being parked on the street. And she says she could never get in contact with me. Well, I work from 6 a.m. to 6:30 p.m. every day, almost except Sunday. If she comes after 6:30, she can talk to me. And if she comes after 7, I guarantee you 90% of the time that boat will be gone and will be parked in this out at Kipling, and we're out fishing.
Who'd you receive the letter from?
From you guys, city.
Well, I didn't sign it.
Here, read it. And even
Would you like me to read it, or
yeah.
for the public, or with your permission? This is dated August 8th, 2014, to Eric Husby, 1403 Wisconsin Avenue in Gladstone. Dear Mr. Husby, City Commission adopted ordinance number 593, which amended Chapter 54, Article 3 parking, and this became effective on May 28, 2014. This ordinance regulates the parking and storage of recreational vehicles and recreational equipment in the city of Gladstone. Repeated attempts have been made to address the issue as well as several warnings regarding the property listed above. These attempts have to date been unsuccessful. This certified letter is intended to serve as notice that your camper, boat, and utility trailer are not permitted on the street or boulevard except for loading and unloading purposes only. Vehicles and/or recreational equipment are not permitted to be parked or stored on the boulevards or streets. Repeated checks have been made at this property location on every occasion. One or more vehicles were noted on the street. In boldface, it says, "These vehicles shall be moved off the street and boulevard by August 15, 2014, or parking tickets will be issued to you for each occurrence." Obviously, voluntary compliance will get the job done with the least amount of cost and/or inconvenience to all parties involved. Our attempts at voluntary compliance have been unsuccessful, and further action will be taken if this order is not complied with. The code allows us to issue a violation to the owner of the vehicle and/or equipment who are in violation of the code. This correspondence serves as official notice. If you have any questions, please contact me by email at djohnson@glad. Well, it's from our code enforcement official, Del Johnson. So, obviously, the commission doesn't send the letters out, so this is new to the commission tonight.
Can I ask if you sent an email?
I don't have an email.
Okay.
Well, the thing of it is when I came here, and I was very upset about this, still am upset, and I was guaranteed by this commission that you are allowed 48 hours. And it was Commissioner Gay who said, if you use your vehicle every 48 hours, the clock starts again. Am I right or am I wrong?
What I said was what the ordinance says.
Well, she doesn't even give me the 48 hours, or he. I got enough time to load and unload, period.
What I stated was what the ordinance says.
Well, she isn't even stating what the ordinance says.
Okay, well, first of all, you're dealing with Del. Del Johnson is our code enforcement officer, and he's the one that sent the letter. But that's what the ordinance says. If you have 48 hours.
They're not giving me 48 hours. They're giving me enough time to load and unload. That's exactly what the letter says. And we use that boat just about every night.
Well, just like any other ordinance, we have no authority above and beyond what the ordinance states. So if the ordinance states you have X number
Okay,
of
now
hours.
this thing, I'm going to get a ticket. How do I go about proving that my boat wasn't there? Do I got to take pictures, cell phone? What's
believe-
my way of protecting myself so when I
believe
go to
the burden-
court?
I believe the burden of proof is on the person issuing you the ticket.
Well, they can take a picture there every day and you'll still see my boat there because I'm at work.
I believe our code enforcement officer works 15 hours a week. I believe we had a conversation before the meeting, so
Yeah.
it would be pretty difficult for him to take a picture every day.
Well, you could because I'm not there. I'm working.
Can I say something, Renee? Do you have some input that would be helpful to the commission right now on this, or?
The code states that recreational vehicles and/or equipment may be parked on the city street or alleyway, subject to the following: for a period of time not to exceed one 48-hour period in a 1-week time period, and only for the purposes of loading and unloading. If you're parking it there because you're going to take it out the next day,
That wasn't what it was agreed. That's not what I was.
that
What
is
they
what
talked
that was
about.
what it was approved by this commission.
She's reading the code right now, right?
And
You say it's 48 hours in a 1-week period?
that is the way the code states.
Okay, well, there's a pickup truck over here with a camper on. You can go there every day, and it's parked on the street at night when I drive by. So that guy's in violation. He's got a pickup truck with a camper in the back of it. Every night when I come home, he's parked there. He's in violation.
And we are working with other residents. You're not the only resident that we're working with.
But you're going to be issuing tickets to a lot of people because I'm going to start going around and I'm going to start calling. And I see 25, 30 people every day that can be
So the
ticketed.
nature of your complaint is really, you don't think the enforcement is correct?
Well, when we sat here, I was
Is
told,
that
and you can,
correct?
it's on videotape, that you are allowed it for 48 hours. Once you move it and use it, that clock started again.
But your complaint is it uneven enforcement of the law? Is that your complaint?
Well, I use the boat on a daily basis.
Can you answer my question, please? Is that your complaint?
That's my complaint.
Okay.
I mean, I can park it. Now, here's the thing of it. I use the boat. Now, I can't park it in my backyard, so the only place I can park it on the side of my house.
But I'd like to stick with the nature of your complaint is that you don't think the ordinance is being enforced properly.
But if I want to go by what the enforcement is, now every night I have to drive my boat between my house and my neighbor's house. I don't think she's going to like that 11 o'clock at night, me backing in right by her bedroom window every single night.
Do you have a location within, that you can park it on your property next to your house, between your house and your neighbor's house?
Yeah, but I got just barely enough room to squeak in there every night.
But that's not my question. My question is, do you have a location that you can park it between your
I'm
house
still
and
not
your
within
neighbor's
the,
house?
I don't think I'm still within the distance right
Because of
away.
the clearance to
The
the
clearance.
property line.
But that's the only place right now I have to park, unless I get a backhoe in there and or a bulldozer or a bobcat and tear out my whole backyard so I can get up in there to park. And that's my only other option. I'll tear out my whole landscaping so I can park my boat in there because I like to fish. I mean, me and my wife talked about it the other day. She says when our youngest son, who's a freshman this year, when he graduates, we put our house for sale and we move because we can't camp here, we can't fish here, we can't do nothing here anymore. I mean, that's just,
Well, in all fairness, you can't camp on the city streets that are designed for traffic flow, and you fish in the lake. I mean, you know,
But if you
we're
can't-
talking about storage of
if you can't
recreational
get there,
vehicles.
if you can't get there, how are you gonna do it? I can't store my boat and you,
Sir, I can assure you, there are a lot of people that have boats that don't store them at their house. There are a lot of people with motorhomes, travel trailers.
yeah, well, I
don't
don't
store
have
at
the
their
money
house.
to store it anyplace else either. Or the time to go get it.
Okay, so I'm gonna, so that we don't talk all night, because I want your complaint to be answered. Believe me, I want your complaint to be answered. But we have to stick to what your complaint is, and I believe your complaint is uneven enforcement of the code. Am I correct?
And the fact that I was told that you were allowed 48 hours.
But she just read the code to you.
Was that the original one, or is that something that came back after it went to the commission, the committee?
This is what was approved by the commission
That he has 48 hours a week.
in a 1-week time period, and only for the purposes of loading and unloading. And it doesn't sound like, to me, what you're stating you're doing is for loading and unloading. It seems to me like you're just saying, I'm
I
taking
have
it
no
out
other
tomorrow.
place to store my boat.
You're talking storage, the code is talking,
Well, I could park it, like I said, this guy right down here, he's parking his truck on the street,
I
and he's in the
understand
same
that.
violation I am.
I understand that.
You gonna start ticketing all these people?
Well, you could request anybody who's receiving citations, that's public record. You could request that information through that office, and you'd be you could tell if that person who you're making complaint about is getting a citation out by looking at the list of people who've gotten a notice.
I can tell you that nobody has received a citation.
No, right now it's been warnings, right?
It's been warnings.
Well, how about the guy in Michigan that's got a garage 2 feet off the sidewalk? He's had that for 5 or 6 years.
We're working
But,
on
but
that too.
can we stick to
I'm
the
just
sub-
saying, you're not you enforce it against me, but all these other people, it's okay.
So your complaint is that you're being picked on, basically, right?
No, I'm just saying that these codes are unenforceable because,
Well,
You
that's
know-
a whole different matter if we're talking about a code enforcement, because we went over a long rigmarole before we finally passed the code that was just read in by the clerk tonight. And that is the law in Gladstone right
I
now.
would like you to review these tapes and see what Commissioner Gay said that last day we were here. Because that's not exactly what he told me when I was standing right here.
That's a pretty strong comment, I think.
I would like you to review the tape, and I will be here next meeting, and I'd like to hear what you have
Do
to
we
say
have
about
that
it.
tape? I think Commissioner Gay and myself probably should take a look at the tape. Okay,
Also,
we can do that.
At what meeting was this? Was
The
this
very
one of
last
the
one.
multiple meetings
The
that we
very
had?
last one before you guys voted on it. The
Okay.
last meeting where you voted on it.
Okay.
In fact, I would like, if at all possible, and I understand you have a work day and all that kind of stuff, I'd like, if all possible, you to be there when we review the tape.
Well, I
you
work
can.
from 6 to 6:30, 6 days
Well,
a week.
I'm able to stay up past 6:30 at night, so I'll be fine with me. I'm sure Matt would.
Sure.
So
Be fine. Give me a
can
date.
you, can somebody get a hold of Mr. Hughesby and arrange for a time for all of us to look at it after 6:30 at night? Okay.
Okay, sounds good.
Here's your letter back. I'll keep that. Sure. Thank you. All right, is there any other public comment? Hearing none, moving on to consent agenda. Tonight in front of us, we have the City Commission regular meeting minutes of August 11 of 2014, and we have payment of bills.
I'd like to make a correction to the minutes.
Okay, and that would be?
Under, when we voted on the, taking the chicken ordinance to the planning commission,
Okay.
on the bottom it said it was carried unanimously. It was not.
Okay, you're right on that. I remember that.
There's a no, shows no above.
We will get that corrected.
Motion carried. Second page.
Yep.
So with that correction, I make a motion that we approve the consent agenda.
I'll second.
Moved by Commissioner Bostwick, supported by Commissioner Mattman to approve the consent agenda as presented with one correction to the City Commission regular meeting minutes. All those in favor of that motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, that motion is carried. We don't have any public hearings tonight, and we don't have any unfinished business, so we're moving on to new business. And the first item under new business is code enforcement update. And for the public, this year when we adopted a budget for our general fund, we included a 15-hour per week code enforcement officer. That would be Mr. Johnson. Because we received a lot of complaints about the exterior upkeep or lack of it, upkeep of the exterior portions of a number of residential and I suppose some commercial properties as well in the city, and that we needed to do a better job. We accepted staff's recommendation to put somebody on for 15 hours a week to start looking at our code. And so that's what our community development official is going to be talking about tonight. Take it away, Renee.
So changing hats. The pictures that were rolling as you came in were just some general pictures that we noted as we're doing code enforcement throughout the community. We're not in the picture taking business, so some of the pictures are not real easy to see, and you know, we're not out trying to make a movie with our before and after pictures, so I apologize in advance. Some of the pictures are just to help us remember what we saw on the day we saw it in the event that any of these cases go to court, and just help us document, you know, the process that we are in. So back, as Mayor Mackey stated, back in 2013 in January, we began the process, the staff and the commission, discussing how to take care of the increasing amount of property maintenance complaints that we were receiving on a daily basis. And what we looked into was increasing or establishing a budget to create a new position. Actually, it's not really a new position. Somebody else used to do that job, but filling a position that hadn't been filled in a while. And we did it on a very part-time basis. We budget $15,000 a year for Dell's position, and that includes his wages, his gas, his phone allowance, and everything, all the benefits together. So it's not a huge amount of money, but it is something that helps relieve the pressure from the complaints that we receive, and allows us to afford a person or a body to do the regular follow-up that needs to be done. The reason that we established this, as I said, was because of increased customer complaints regarding property maintenance issues. And the other reason that we developed it was because we had staff shortages both in the mine department, city hall, and in the public safety department. And that's where largely all of the complaints come to, so this kind of helped us establish a permanent person to address that. And then finally, one of the big reasons that we discussed doing this was to improve the aesthetic values of properties throughout the community. And as you can see from the pictures that were rolling before, there were some, there's always some areas that we need to address. I think Gladstone is a really beautiful town. Travel to other areas, you recognize real quickly that we're a pretty nice looking town, but we need to, continue to strive to keep that up. So with the presentation, I'm just going to show you some before pictures. I'm not going to talk about the addresses. They're not really relevant. Before you have the whole list of addresses that we've been to. But this was from a business, in our downtown district that had some issues throughout the winter. I believe this was the fall months that we were working with them, and then into the spring. And we were able to work with the owner of this property, and, the way it looks today is much cleaner. He's keeping it up quite nicely. And this, since Dell has been here, no tickets actually have been issued whatsoever for any of the complaints that we've worked with.
The goal is to get compliance.
The goal is to gain compliance without ticketing and punishing people. And to date, that has worked. We are at the point with some homeowners and business owners that maybe it needs to go the next step. You know, we work with that every day. This is another, home that we worked with to just general maintenance, clean up stuff. We've kind of made, we're a little bit overwhelmed. And they've done a nice job of cleaning up their property. Some of them I don't have after pictures. Because again, we're not in business picture taking. So, you know, if he's there and he has the camera, he likes to get them. This is a home that we worked with every year that I have worked here. So for 6 years, we received complaints on this property. And when I worked at Public Safety, I was very aware of it because I used to hear them complain and talk about it. Since Dell has been here, his very first year, it was cleaned up. This was last June. It was cleaned up, and it remains cleaned up at this point. This was just a recent picture. So they've done a nice job keeping it clean. Just another, just kind of misuse, some property that there's not a body in that bag. We did check. Looked a little suspicious. Doesn't it look like a body bag?
I didn't see that. I don't know what you're looking at.
They've done a nice job of keeping it up too. This was a home that was abandoned, and we left behind a lot of stuff. And the reason that we were notified about it was because of a terrible smell. Those are flies in the window. So this home was condemned immediately, when we found it, and we were able to work. The owner of the property was kind of in a rental situation, but, she was unaware that they had left. And she worked with us and, actually got D&L, we had to get D&L janitorial in to clean it up. There's a happy dog living there now. But since then, the property has sold, and there's a new family in that home now. They're doing, there's still some, you know, some things that need to be done on it, but they're much improved over what it was. We don't have the after picture, but this is one of our favorite calls that we get. People like to put mattresses and couches and things on their porches and then leave them forever. I don't have the after picture of this one, but they did take care of this. It's one of our favorite things. Lawn grass is always an issue. You know, we get a lot of calls for that. This is another one that I don't have the after pictures, but this property they like to work on cars and race cars and do things, and that's fine, we encourage that, but at some point, you know, it expands to the street and then go further down the street. So we work with people to contain their toys and things in their yard. This has been an ongoing problem with us. These are really hard to see. I know these pictures were taken from a neighbor and sent to us. We couldn't get this close. This is from the neighbor's perspective. We've been working with this homeowner for quite some time, and she's working on it. It's much improved. It still has some ways to go. This kind of demonstrates our buildings. This was a partially renovated garage, and what happened was there was an insurance claim on this home, and the insurance company would not pay out the amount that the homeowner felt that they should. Actually, it was a home, I should say. It was a second home on the property. It was a garage. And so they left it for a year and a half like that, and the neighbors were calling us pretty regularly. With Dell working with letter writing campaigns to the insurance company, we did this, not we, but the homeowners got a settlement, and they were able to take care of that extra property, you know, so that this is the cleaned up version. We still have some work to do on their home there, as you can see. We're working with them, continuing to work with them on that. This is another property that had issues for, let's say, 20 years. We worked routinely with, the city has received many, many complaints regarding this property. And Dell, again, through letter writing, conversations with the homeowner, has been able to make some strides with this property. And you see it today, it's much improved. Still, you know, there's a trailer there right now, and it's a little bit hard to see because it's a little bit dark, but he's working on it. There's actually he had just walked out of the picture when Dell took it, so, much improved over what it has been for a number of years. So we're quite proud of that. Dell was hired in June of 2013, and in that past year for 6 months, he worked on 181 complaints. This year, I track them by year, is how we track them, and you have the full year's report for this year so far to date as of 8/18. He's tracked 282 complaints. Many times when we receive a complaint, we receive more than one complaint on the same property. We do not write 2 complaints, we just kind of add it to the complaint that's already established. So that 282 might be quite a bit larger. I just wanted to break down the complaints for you a little bit too. About 64% of those are snow and grass and vegetation issues. And about 20% are issues with vehicles and RVs, either on sidewalks and boulevards, unlicensed, it could be a whole host of, I just kind of lumped all vehicle issues together. About 10% include junk or debris or garbage in yards. 4% include structures or buildings. About 2% of the complaints that we've handled this year have been city maintenance issues, largely from the winter freeze-ups that we had this winter and some of the emergency repairs that had to be done. And we're still working to correct some of the alleys and sidewalks and things that we ripped up this winter to get us through. So hopefully next year, 2% isn't bad, but hopefully next year you don't even see 2% there. We'd like that to be 0%, but you know, this year was an unusual year. And then 1%, you know, just kind of other things that didn't fall into a category. The only thing I'd like to say is that, in closing, is that, you know, we do put a small amount of money to this, and with budget year, you know, the new budget year coming, and we're always looking to tighten up and what can we do better. I just hope that you consider some of the things, that this position handles. I'm not certain where else it could be handled at this point. And one of the things that I find in this position is that people who know that we're gonna keep coming back, that's typically how we have gotten compliance in some tough cases that we were unable to get compliance with before. Because every time he's here, he's gonna check, he's gonna look, and that, for most people, will get them to comply voluntarily. And that has helped tremendously with some of the, what I call hard cases, and when Dell first started here, I had a file of, well, things that had been going on before I got here, and probably even some of the things went on when you were here, Joe.
I saw several properties in that I can tell you exactly where they were.
So, and he's tackled a large portion of those. You know, we still, there's always improvement to be made, and as, you know, we add things to the code, there's always new things that come onto this plate. So I've just been very impressed with the number of people who have told me, you know, I see a difference, and that's what we're shooting for, is to see a difference. You see less things happening than that we saw before. Actually, this year we saw less grass complaints than we did last year. That's an improvement. I'm hoping next year or this winter, we see less snow complaints than we did the previous winter. They know he's gonna be out there telling you to shovel your sidewalk, and last year was a tough winter. There were times when we went out and we felt bad because there was only one place to go with the snow, and that was basically, yeah, and if they couldn't get that shovel up and over, there was really no help for them, so. Hopefully this winter's not quite as bad and we won't have as many complaints. Any questions about what you have, or?
I have a comment. First of all, I will tell you that Dell has an incredibly even demeanor. I don't think he ever gets mad. that's a critical skill in that job, because I'm sure there are a lot of people who probably aren't very pleasant to deal with from time to time when he's got to interface with them. And it's an easy place to cut, but for several years we didn't have that position filled, and the problems start mounting. Hopefully, you would think that his the repeat offenders certainly wouldn't be repeat offenders after a while if they know that there's going to be continued enforcement. And it's when we started that program way back when I was still working here, it was mainly so that it was so that we would keep this an attractive community to buy a home in, because if somebody makes a complaint about the upkeep of neighboring properties and it falls on deaf ears, or there's no enforcement effort, eventually you're going to have a tax base sliding downwards, which is one of the biggest problems we've got. We still have. We need to get some growth started in our tax base. So I think this is a critical program if you're going to do that. And I agree with you, by the way. I think by and large, Gladson's a very pretty community, especially in the summer. There's a lot of pride of ownership.
Sure.
So if there's no other comments from the commission?
I just have one little
do.
comment. We share these things, routinely with staff, and I just want to say that the cooperation amongst all departments. So the complaint comes into Renee or Dell, and it may involve the water department or public works or the electric department. They're right on board with Dell and Renee, and no matter where the problem is, it's not, well, I didn't make the mess, I'm not going to, clean it up or whatever. Everybody's on board with this program and see the benefits of it. So just wanted to give everybody a plug for working together and towards the same goal.
That's a good point. A lot of the calls, if it's long grass and we've issued several warnings, at some point it's got to get cut. We would refer those to DPW, they take care of them, and then we bill the customer. Same with Gladstone, and you'll note on the citation sheet that you have, not citation, the tracking that you have, it'll show where different departments are referred to. So many of these are outside of our control, and sometimes they're outside of the city. I mean, we took a call today it's a county, it was an animal ordinance county control thing. So, we refer things to the county and to sometimes even state electrical inspectors, state plumbing code people. Wherever they need to go, we try to refer them out to where the problem lies. So
I do have one other question. Are all of these complaints, are they, I see that the number's generated, but is the complaint as a result of a call, or is that a result of does Dell patrol for 5 hours a week, or what is the exact origin of every complaint?
Dell can institute a complaint, and we call them complaints. The form is called the Property Maintenance Complaint Tracking Form, so you'll hear us say complaints a lot. Sometimes they are not always complaint driven from the community. Sometimes they can be complaint driven from internal, from the DPW staff, from water, wastewater. They can be from postman, post people. I should say we have a post woman that makes quite a few complaints for us.
But what I'm getting at is
No, I know what you're saying.
How often is he out generating complaints himself?
When he has time, and typically he's responding to phone call complaints that we receive or complaints from up front that we receive. The trouble is when you go to issue a citation for long grass or sidewalk shoveling is a good example. You go to one home and you're going to red tag them for for long grass. If there's 3 other homes on that block that have long grass, you're pretty much going to have to hit them because it's just not fair to hit the one on that area and
Well, I
look away
understand
on
that,
the
but
other two.
just as the lengthy conversation we just had
Yep,
in
exactly.
public comment, what is ultimately I'll get to that, but what was the origin of that complaint? Was that as a result of this or that? And that's why I'm asking
Yep.
the question.
And
Was it from a
oftentimes,
phone call? Is it from
yeah.
public safety? Is it?
And oftentimes, it comes from multiple directions. If it's a complaint, it might be something he sees, but we get a complaint from DPW, we might have a phone complaint, there might be 2 or 3 complaints on one property, just depends.
Okay.
But no, there's not any set time. I would say, if I were to guess, the majority of his day is spent taking care of new complaints and then following up on complaints that we already have. And that's why we have this tracking system. We try to, when a complaint is received from a client in the community, we try to respond, well, as soon as he's in, the next time he's in. So it might be that same day, it might be a day or 2 later, depending on when he's in. But then you will see that sometimes the close date is quite a ways out, and that is either we didn't gain compliance and we might have to do a letter, or we might have to do repeated letters or repeated attempts, and sometimes phone calls, sometimes emails, depending on how we work with them. But the close date often isn't real close to the complaint date. That is something, without adding a lot of extra hours to the position, probably is going to remain that way, because we had decided when we put this money here, you as the commission gave me direction to say, we want the complaints at least initially addressed as soon as possible. So when Joe Schmo comes in and says, I got a complaint with this, somebody's over there looking at it fairly quickly. And that's what we have set up. Doesn't always get closed that quickly, but we have somebody who at least initiates contact to one, confirm the complaint, because sometimes the complaints are invalid. So first of all, to confirm the complaint, and then second of all, how is this going to be tracked? What's the plan of attack for this complaint? Is it just a red warnings tag? Is it a letter? Is it a, public safety has to go over and talk to them? What is going to be the process to solve it? So that's how he approaches it. But I would say the bulk of his time is spent responding to fresh, new complaints.
No other questions, we'll move on. Michigan Municipal League Annual Meeting, voting delegate and alternate.
The annual MML meeting is coming up October 15th through the 17th in Marquette. And we need to appoint a member and an alternate.
I know that Jay and myself are going. I don't know if any of the other commissioners are or not.
I am.
You are, Joe?
My wife said.
Out of the state, so.
Okay.
I would nominate Mayor Pro Tem Mattinen as our voting delegate and Commissioner Bostwick as our alternate.
Support.
Been moved by myself and supported by Commissioner Gay to appoint Mayor Pro Tem Mattinen as our voting delegate at MML annual meeting and Commissioner Bostwick as our alternate. All those in favor of that motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, that motion is carried. Utility policies, city manager.
Yeah, in the front of the packet, this is the books that we have at our desks. Pretty lengthy documents, but I photocopied. At the top it says current policy. We have a separate utility shutoff policy. And the next one is utility deposit policy. So that's just our current policies, gave you that for reference. And then what I'm proposing is to add business utilities and landlord-tenant utilities. These are not currently in our policy at all. So we have a small utility committee within staff here, and we meet routinely, probably quarterly, with as much as laws change and we need to keep our policies updated. So we're proposing to add these 2 pages to the shutoff policy, and then the very last document, the utility deposit policy. This was kind of spearheaded in June when I brought before the commission the fee schedule, and we noticed the residential customer deposit was $200. So we did some polling of other communities in the UP and are recommending the residential customer deposit be raised to $300 with $150 due upon the request when they come to the utility billing window and request service. And then we can bill the other 150 or however they want to pay for that. And then a little bit further down in red also, the commercial industrial account deposits going to $500 due upon request for service.
I'd move that we approve the utility policy changes as presented.
Moved by Commissioner Matten, supported by Commissioner Nemechek to approve the utility policy as presented by staff. Any comments or? Surprised there's no comments. All those in favor of that motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, that motion is carried.
Thank you.
Before the start of the meeting tonight, Commissioner Nemechek asked me some questions about our MERS defined benefit pension program. We have on our agenda tonight an update on MERS. City manager has put together some information on our 3 divisions, and we have 2 young ladies from MERS with us tonight. So,
Yep.
Carol?
I'll kind of introduce it, and then I'll turn it over to Tara and Tammy for further comments or questions. So annually, in the month of June, we receive our annual report, and that tells us what our payment is going to be for the next fiscal year, so we can budget accordingly to that. This year, when we received our report in June, in previous years, the MERS report that we received was done by a different actuarial company, and there was a lot more information in the report. There was future projections and stuff in there. So I contacted MERS and said, is it possible to get any of that information? Of course, that's possible. Takes a little bit of time. So we did receive that report August 1st, and I just think it has some really good information in here on where our payments are going to go, and wanted to share that with you. Again, this is MERS payments. So for the current fiscal year, we pay almost $600,000. That's our annual required payment to MERS. That's a very large dollar amount. We talk about this internally with staff quite routinely. So when we received the report, the very last page, and I don't mean to jump ahead, and Tara and Tammy can come up and provide more information in a minute, but the very last page, just for the public's information, 2020 is when we're going to peak out, and our annual required payment that year is going to be $1,022,000. We're currently, the fiscal year we're going into, our annual payment's going to be $674,844.
So when we
That's
get
scary.
back to growth, when we just talked about the property maintenance code, this is a great example of if there is no growth in the tax base, MERS could crowd out other items or force us to make a decision.
And this is the annual required payment. This is not contributing any more, to increase our funding level.
So the amount of assets held for future benefits is decreasing every year. The amount of assets we've got are down to about 50% of our future benefit obligation, which shows up every year in our audit. And so what your comment is that basically we wouldn't be making any progress on our funding levels. We'd be just basically holding our own.
Right. So maybe Tara and Tammy can explain, we're not alone in this situation. That MERS represents many communities, and kind of where do we fit in the whole picture of MERS?
Can I ask one question before you start?
Sure.
My question to Joe was, where did that appear on the budget? But it appears in many places apparently, but not specifically anywhere.
A large portion of it is in the general fund, only because the future payments come out of the fund where the people held the positions that are now retired.
The answer I gave to Dave is that wherever you see payroll, you're going to see MERS splashed into that. It's an overhead item.
Yeah.
But it's not specific on the budget, like the report that we got today from Vicki.
No.
Okay. And my other question is, what happens if you don't make the full payment? Obviously, we're at 51%, so that's been the case in the past, apparently.
That we've always made our required payment.
We have,
Yes.
okay. But we're at 51%, is that where we should be?
No.
No.
But we've always made our required payment.
Well, the
Minimum payment on the credit card.
the market tank a couple years ago did not help us at all.
Oh, I
And we're
see.
trying to recover from that.
Let me turn it over to Vicky, right?
Tara.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, so thank you for having me here tonight, and I'll get to your
Can we
question.
talk directly, first of all, before we go any further, about what has happened to our funding percentage?
Right, so typically, what happens, and you're not alone, as Darla stated, I'm the regional manager for the UP, so I spend a lot of my time, probably 80% of my time these days, addressing councils and commissions on this very issue. Most of our municipalities within MERS, over 800 municipalities that we serve, fall between 60 and 80% funding. So that's where the majority of our municipalities are falling. So you're not alone in the fact that you're a little bit underfunded, and that's okay. If you were to not make your annual required contribution, we would work with you to help give solutions as we've done in the past to, to help with your cash flow issues and all of those things. And so typically that would happen if you really fell below, then I guess it would be up to Treasury to, to step in and take over. But yeah, I mean, you're not alone in this situation. And let me just back up a little bit. And the reason that you're in the funding position is that you're in is not just one particular item. It's many different items. So number one, if you take a look back in the annual valuation, and I won't go through every little detail, but benefit improvements have been given over the past, and I'm talking since you came into MERS. So union groups, non-union groups, whoever, negotiations and all of those things come up and they say, you know what, in lieu of a wage increase, maybe we'll increase the benefit multiplier on our pension or something like that. So that is a cost. Years past, MERS hasn't had fiscal responsibility policies that we have in place now, where now you have to be 80% or 100% funded to even give a benefit improvement. So some of those things have changed. That's just one item that's getting you to a lower funding position. Another is the investment returns. So MERS 30-year average return, yep.
Do we have any decision on where that invested or how it's invested?
No, all of the,
We just rely on some guru in Lansing to do this and
right.
hope for the best?
We have an investment team at MERS. We manage 15% of our portfolio in-house. We are your administrator of your plan. And so
The biggest reason why that happened is because the stock market is not a very attractive place to
exactly.
park your money.
Yeah. So, and as I
I
was just,
understand, but different funds perform differently during that time.
they do. Yeah.
Some did even well.
Well, maybe, yeah, some probably
Apparently,
did.
the Mirrors Fund didn't fare as well.
No, it did not. So let me give you just a quick synopsis. So MERS 30-year annual return on the total market fund is 9.3%. Our assumed rate of return is 8%. Last year on that fund, we made 14.8%. So we feel we're doing a very good job. However, 2008, we lost 25%. So
you're
it
in a
was,
recovery
a
mode.
big hit. Now what's happening with your funding position is that because we take a 10-year smoothed average, because had we have come to our municipalities, especially those who are in a funding position like yours, and said, look, now we need to account for a 25% loss, and you realizing that 25% loss, a lot of them wouldn't be able to pay us. So what we do is, and not just since that year, we smooth that out over a 10-year period of time. Right now, we're only halfway through that period. So we've got some time to go until that falls off and that turns around. So that gives a
One of the things that
history.
could potentially change that would be a different attitude from state government, correct?
Correct. Yeah, I mean, it's hard to dig out of that hole because assumptions aren't being met. Defined benefit plans are always based on assumptions because we don't know when people will retire. We don't know if somebody's going to go out on disability. We don't know how long after somebody's eligible to retire they'll say. It's all of those things that report's going to build in every year. So it's based on those assumptions.
And that was one of the things I wanted to point out, the fact that through discussions when Mayor Mackey and I were dealing with both of the union
Both of the bargaining
negotiations.
units, yep.
There's a lot of discussion regarding people who are eligible to retire at a certain time, but the reality is they can't do that.
Correct.
So these numbers are, they're going to move based on how long a person works beyond the point at which they're eligible to retire. And most people are working longer than their eligibility
Understand.
date, so.
Do these benefits transfer to the spouse when the
It
when the former
depends.
employee?
It does. It depends. It's up to the employee to make that election at when they retire. Defined benefit works
With
a
their
lot differently than
spouse's consent.
DC. It depends, yeah. So if you're in a defined benefit plan and you retire and you want to say leave your spouse something in the event of your death, then you would take a reduction in your benefit, and then when you passed away, we would cover your spouse for the rest of their life.
I
That's
see.
under defined benefit.
Okay.
Defined contribution is a different style.
Thank you.
So they'd get the account balance, yeah. So for
You're
you,
just talking tonight about defined benefits so far.
just so far, right? And that's just where I was gonna head. So for the city here, you've already moved to a defined contribution style system. And that's really what's happening with your payments. Typically what happens when you move from a defined contribution, or I'm sorry, from defined benefit to defined contribution, it's about 10 to 15 years later where the contributions spike. Because what we do is we ask for accelerated funding on your closed defined benefit plan. We want you to fund that quicker so that those retirees are gonna get paid, okay? So that's what happens. So right now, if you're looking at it, you're getting to that peak in about 2020, as Darla mentioned. Now, the numbers in this second report, not the valuation, but this 20-year report, this is best case scenario. So this is basically looking at the defined benefit plan as it is today and all of those assumptions being met. Now, this is today, so 2 or 3 years down the road, you're going to want to redo this to see what that market environment and that economic environment is at that point, to see then. Because as we dig out of the 2008 hole and assumptions, change and those types of things, this will be very different.
But this also is making the assumption that the eligible employees retire at their eligibility date, correct?
Yeah,
So that could change.
yeah.
One of the biggest
To our benefit, actually.
One of the biggest factors that could change that, what Commissioner Gay is getting at, is when I worked here, city employees negotiated for post-employment health insurance. That is, there have been a lot of givebacks from
Yeah.
employees on that. The significant point about that is if you don't have as much coverage after you retire of your health insurance, you can't retire. Even though you're technically eligible to retire, after you figure in the cost of providing yourself with health insurance, you talk yourself into continuing to work.
Yeah. You're exactly right. Because in my former position at MERS, I worked with Tom. We had a couple conversations, and congratulations, by the way. But really, that's what I was hearing from employees. That's the number one concern of why are you not retiring? You're eligible, and it's healthcare costs. So, but you're moving on the right, you're on the right track. It's just a matter of, for budgeting purpose and those types of things, looking at these reports. This is a good starting point. This is where we're at today, but again, this isn't something that is going to be true in 20 years from now, because that environment will be completely different than today.
It's no different than a budget. It's
Correct.
It's a fluid document
Correct.
that changes.
Yeah. Any other questions I can answer?
Now, what it affects this, what I understand what MERS is, you got a pot of money out there. And if a bunch of people retire at one time, you calculate out how much money you need for those retirements, and you take it from that pot of money, right?
Yeah, in a sense, yes.
And one lump sum comes out of there and it's put it for another pot for those retirees, right?
Right, well, not exactly. As you're going along in a defined benefit plan, there's what's called a normal cost payment and an unfunded liability payment. So if, say this system had 5 retirees go in 1 year and we didn't plan on that wasn't built into our assumptions, then the city would have a bigger cost impact than they would if they stayed at their assumed retirement date and maybe just 2 went in that year.
If the money was there, you would take it out.
Right, I mean, they're gonna pay for it either way. It's just one of those assumptions not being met.
To give you an example, when I used to work, and I retired over 10 years ago, our funding percentages were probably 75 to 80%. The sole biggest reason why our funding percentage is down, in my opinion right now, you can disagree, is because the attractiveness of the investments that are available to a public retirement system to park their money in is not that great, and therefore their rate of return is not that great. Couple that with benefit decisions that were made by the city commission at the time that long-term probably wouldn't have been made had we known what we know today. That's just a fact. And then the third thing you haven't gotten into yet is in 1997, you did touch on it. We started a whole new retirement plan for all of our new hires. Most everybody who works here today is not covered by a defined benefit pension. They're mostly all defined contribution. That's not a problem.
Right. Yeah, so you're turning your system over essentially to a pay-as-you-go system once this defined benefit plan is dead and gone, but that won't be until every retiree and every beneficiary is paid out and they're passed away. So that liability for this old defined benefit system will not be gone until that happens.
Now, as people, your assumptions with employees becoming eligible to retire and continuing to work beyond that point, that's not going to reduce our annual contribution. It's simply going to increase our level of funding. In other words, you're not going to reduce it significantly if someone's 1 year, 2 year, 3 year past their eligibility, continuing to work.
Right. I mean, all of those assumptions are built into how we estimate your annual required contribution. So as I stated, if you have 3 people go out at this age or, in 1 year, it's going to have a bigger impact and it's going to be an assumption not being met. Therefore, it's going to change the way that required contribution is calculated, the dollar amount.
I think the biggest concern of the commission tonight is when they look at that increasing dollar amount that we're going to have to come up with.
Right. Yeah.
It has been suggested to me, I suppose now is as good a time as any, by one of our former commissioners recently. He said, you just come up with new revenue, you increase the millage rate this year. And you told us that you had a proposal at the time to do 5 different things with that new revenue. And we're still, of course, we're going to get a report back from staff as to what the recommendations were. But this former commissioner said to me, have you ever considered taking some of that money and plowing it into MERS? Which would change the 5 things we identified up front when we voted on mulch. And I said to our public safety director, I said, okay, after I was approached by this former commissioner, I says, what would be more important to you, a fire truck or your pension? And he said to me, well, Joe, I'm going to give you the right answer, and the answer is to provide service to people who need a fire truck. He wasn't thinking about himself. It's one person answer. But that is a possibility.
That can be part of the mix of recommendations.
Could be.
It should be. If it's-
But then it changes some of the other assumptions we made. That's the point.
I do want to point out also, just for down the road, that I don't think this is where you are right now. I think you're working towards getting there, and I think that, just looking ahead and looking to where that peak is. But the question was raised in the beginning, what happens if we can't make that payment? And there is another option, if it got to that point, to change your plan again to the hybrid plan, which is a combination of defined benefit and defined contribution. What happens with that, and I'm not saying I'm recommending this right now, I'm just saying, because you brought up that point, when you open up a hybrid plan for new hires, because it has a defined benefit component, then you essentially reopen those old defined benefit plans that are closed for purposes of assets and liabilities, which then eliminates this accelerated funding on going to the defined contribution plan. So there are other options out there for you if you got to that point where you couldn't afford to make that ARC payment. Just to let you know.
There's no question that I'm not saying creating the defined contribution was a bad idea, but there's no question if we had not created the defined contribution, our defined benefit wouldn't be in the position it's in. It'd have a lot more assets to
Correct.
back up the
Correct.
pensions.
Yeah, you're absolutely correct.
But when we made that decision in 1997, we made the decision saying that, well, we'll eventually get out from underneath of the defined benefit obligation. And then the defined contribution, by the way, the employee decides where the money's going to be invested.
Yeah. Yeah, they shoulder all of the risk in that plan versus the employer.
They also shoulder all the control, which is why I like mine.
Yes, yep.
So,
Yep.
And it's portable.
yes.
It follows
very-
you wherever you go throughout your
Very
lifetime.
portable.
You're
Flexible.
immediately vested.
Yep.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
Moving on to city manager's reports.
Let's see. Last Thursday, we had Dr. Mary Cretin's Art Gallery open house. I think it went very well. We had probably 35 to 40 people here. We invited all the local artists that we had their art displayed, and then they were able to take their pictures home later that night. We still do have one hanging around here, and we welcome them to stay as long as they can. It was very beautiful artwork that we had here. And I contacted Joanne Chenard today. She's our local art teacher in the schools. And throughout the school year, we display the art from the kids throughout the Gladstone area school. So, I received a letter from a city resident. It is very hard to read. I'll admit I couldn't read all the words, but the gist of the letter is that he was upset that we didn't choose a relative of his for Grand Marshal for the 4th of July parade. That is not a decision I make alone. I think I've shared that here before. There's the 4th of July committee, and we choose who we feel is important, at the time that we're planning for the 4th of July. Retired veterans are definitely people we all honor, and I thank them all for their service, but he put on the outside of the envelope, no need to reply. He's very upset. I apologize, but it's a committee that makes the decision, and
I believe we received some correspondence as commissioners prior to the last meeting.
Yes.
I met with the gentleman at his home. I've known him for years. He was very upset, and if you read the tone of his second letter, you can tell how upset he was. I won't tell you that I was able to satisfy him, but I shook his hand when I left. He's known me since forever. He's just not very happy, and I don't see any way that could have been avoided.
Just a reminder, August 27th, Wednesday. Anybody between the ages of 50 and 68, if you're available, please go to the Gladstone Senior Citizens Center, the library portion there, from 9 to noon. They're looking for people to participate in a 3-page multiple choice survey on nutrition and lifestyle here in Gladstone. So I met, Donna Aird was down at Farmers Market earlier today, and I'm not sure if she thought people were going to RSVP to her, so she knew how many people to expect, but it's been in the Action Shopper every weekend for the last 2 or 3 weekends. There was no need to RSVP. They're just looking for people to go there. So
I believe this is our last meeting. We decided, Dave, you're too old, and Jay and Matt, you're too young, so Dennis and I'll have to go, right?
I received in the mail, or by email today, our Communities of Distinction production for the month of September will be aired in New York, New Jersey, and Westchester, and streaming live at a couple websites. September 5th, 12th, 19th, and 26th. So that is still going on.
That was paid for by the DDA.
Yep. September 3rd, I'm still looking for your availability for a work session with the City of Escanaba and the Delta County Commission at noon to review the Super Trade Corridor Next Michigan Development Corporation. Dave and Joe said they were available. Can the other 3 of you let me know your availability September 3rd at noon?
At noon at City Hall.
At Escanaba City Hall? Mm-hmm. Yep. I think we're going to meet whether we can get everybody or not, because I think enough people will be able to attend, but I didn't want to exclude anybody on that. Similarly, September 10th, that's our next joint governmental meeting at Escanaba City Hall. We will be talking about the same subject, and we'll be dialing in ITV with the Marquette group, because it's Marquette County and Delta County and all entities within that want to be part of this. What eventually we'll need to approve another resolution to be part of this. So if you can put September 10th at noon on your calendar as well, that would be at the joint governmental meeting though. The September 3rd meeting is just local, City of Escanaba, City of Gladstone, and Delta County Commissioners. Some staff members and I have been contacted by several people that live along the lake, in different areas. Actually, they're not all in one central area, regarding the city's shoreline plan. Do we have a plan? Do we not have a plan? What plan are we following? We do not currently have a written plan. A lot of people that live in the area where the boardwalk was put in roughly 10 years ago, we did remove a lot of trees and shrubs for the boardwalk specifically. We were allowed to do that at that time, but really haven't maintained any of the vegetation since then. And we've been in contact with several agencies. DEQ is one of them, and the local conservation district is the other. And good news, we can trim, remove some of the vegetation along the shoreline. And we're trying to put a plan together to do that. This is not in this fiscal year budget, so I don't know how much, if any, will get done this fiscal year, but this was a subject brought before the rec board. They are in full support of a shoreline plan, so staff and I will continue to work, towards getting something formalized, so it comes with a dollar amount and we can see what it would cost to maintain, a minimal or an aggressive, whatever we choose to do, kind of shoreline plan. So just wanted to share that with everybody. And lastly, last Tuesday at my weekly staff meeting with my department heads, we are every day working more on this, narrowing down the 5 items, prioritizing them, putting dollar amounts to them. I would like to propose, so we talked about hopefully early September we could have this, some kind of work session. How are you guys for September 8th? That's our next regular city commission meeting at 7. Having a work session before that, either like 4 to 6 or 5 to 7. Would that fit in your schedule?
Yeah, that would be fine.
I'm waiting.
4 to 6 or 5 to 7? What do you?
I'm waiting on a date for some training for work down
Okay.
in Lower Michigan. I think it may be October, so I should be fine
Okay.
right now. We're getting close to that date, so I would assume if it was gonna be that, that close, I've already known, but it should be fine.
Don, is this far? I didn't hear your head going one way or the other.
What was the dates again?
September 8th. That's our next regular city commission meeting. It's a Monday.
I'll be gone. I'll be on vacation at that point, from the 2nd till the 14th. So I'll be gone.
I would be available. I guess we go without you?
Mm-hmm.
Can we do that?
Oh, yeah,
Okay.
definitely.
Of course, you can get any written comments in beforehand to us, or verbal.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So, well, Matt, if you decide it's not good, we can choose another date too, so.
I just, would it be possible to get, would you have anything available for Hugo to review before he leaves? So we could
Yeah,
get some
the,
input from him?
Let's see, for September 8th, the packets will go out Thursday, September 4th.
Well, maybe even the information on
Yeah.
just
Oh, yeah.
the work port,
Mhm.
the
Yeah, the
work
Thursday
portion.
prior,
If you just want to email some
we would get you the
then-
information, same as what's on the commission agenda for the 8th.
Email them.
Yeah.
Sure, sure.
Are you
Okay.
receiving the email?
Yes,
Okay,
yes.
all right.
Mhm.
Okay, so we will plan on 4 to 6?
6.
4 to 6, okay. Good. That was all I had.
Moving on to city commission and committee reports, tonight we have a report from our city treasurer, the financial condition, the city's budget-wise, rather. Not the overall finance position, but where we are budget-wise this year.
This is how the report is going to come up every month now. It'll be the second commission meeting of every month under the committee reports. I don't have anything new to report since last month's financials that were presented. Just looking to answer any questions if anybody had any questions.
It's pretty straightforward
Yeah.
to me.
Yeah. I looked it over now.
Yeah.
Good. All right.
Thank you. Moving on to boards and commission reports, I attend the Parks and Recreation regularly. I was present when they talked about the shoreline management plan. And I always enjoy those meetings. And I went to EDC where Commissioner Nemechek was. And I'm a member of the DDA, so I go to most of their meetings. And I saw both Commissioners Nemechek and Bostwick at the DDA meeting. So we had 3 commissioners present. It wasn't an open meeting violation. I thought that was a very good meeting as well.
I was at the Parks and Recreation also.
That's right, you
At the
were.
beach house. Yeah.
For information, I will be at the next DDA meeting, which I believe was the 16th.
The regular meeting is September 9th, Tuesday morning at 8 o'clock.
Okay.
And they have scheduled a separate work session at the DDA building. DDA board and all businesses within the DDA are invited September
I believe it was the
16th.
16th.
Yeah. Wednesday.
Yes, September 16th, noon to 1 at the DDA building. Just kind of narrowing down what events we would all like to work together on bringing to the DDA center and downtown and the central gathering place. Like
Just in
to-
case everyone else decides to attend, if we have to post it. So
It's
be
a
it.
work session, so
Okay.
City clerk
No
has
formal.
continually told us as long as we
Yep.
don't have any public business on the record, we can all be in the same room at the same time because we're not making decisions. Hearing nothing else on that, we'll go back to public comment again if there's any. Seeing none. Moving on to city commissioner comments. Start with Commissioner Nemechek.
I would just like to take a couple minutes whenever anybody sees me, because it's been the headline of the paper several times. They ask me about the recall petition and how does that work? Well, the way it works is that you can go to the county clerk and get a petition to recall a person. That person doesn't have to have done anything illegal. They apparently have done something that you don't agree with, so you would want to have them recalled. You then have to fill out the form, you put their name on it, and you put down why you want them recalled. And the first thing that happens is what you write down as to why you want them recalled has to go through a clarity hearing so that the words on the recall petition accurately describe what went on. In our case, with the 3 of us that have had petitions taken out against us, the first clarity hearing did not go, so there was another clarity hearing, and the second clarity hearing passed. So now the person that has the petitions has 180 days to get 432 signatures. And that number of signatures is determined by 25% of the people that voted in the last gubernatorial race in the city. So there's 432 signatures needed. If, for instance, the petitions are successfully completed, then they're returned back to the city clerk, and they would be in the May election. What basically happens now is those seats are basically open again. And the incumbents would be listed as candidates for those seats, and then anyone else that files to run for that office would also be listed. The person with the most votes gets a seat. And that's how it works. In other words, the person taking out the recall petition, to a large extent now, has some responsibility for replacement. It used to be that there was just a vote to see if a person be recalled or not. That's not the case anymore. Now, it's basically opening up the seat for election.
Provided the person gets 432 signatures.
You have to get the 432 signatures
Qualified signatures.
in 180 days.
Right, okay. Yeah, that's just recently changed, I believe.
Well, what's changed about it is, it used to be on the ballot to yes or no, do you want this person recalled?
Right.
What happened was, if for instance 3 people were recalled, then this commission can't function.
Correct.
So they made a change in the law that it opened the seat, is what it really did. And if that happened, there would be 3 seats on the May ballot with Joe, Hugo, and my name listed as candidates, along with anyone else that filed
A petition.
a petition to run for that.
That is assuming you still want to be involved in city commission business,
Yeah.
Yeah,
right?
Right.
Because you,
Anyway.
so you would have to file another petition, or would you automatically, as an incumbent, be listed on there?
You'd automatically be listed.
So theoretically, if someone was successful in getting all those signatures and nobody else filed a petition to run in those seats, the people who were recalled would
It's-
actually be
it has-
reinstalled back in the seat,
It has
right?
become very, very difficult to recall
Up
a
and down.
person, yes. That's the long and short of it.
You said earlier that you believed in the right to recall.
I do.
And I believe in the right to recall as well.
I do.
And the only comment I'd have about a recall is the issues that we face, the 5 issues that we said we needed to address with financing, they're going to exist whether I'm here on the commission or not. And if I'm not on the commission, one of the first things I do is sit right where one of these guys are sitting right now, and I'd say to that next commission, what are you going to do about the problems we have as a community? And I'd be interested in hearing what the answers would be.
But I just wanted to go through that because everybody that sees me wants to know how the recall works. And
Right.
maybe there's people watching TV that, will see this on the recorded TV, then they'll know. Because it is different than it used to be.
You carry your seat though until the election, right?
That's correct. Right. Mhm. And it's not a special election, it's the general election in May.
Jay?
Yes. I just have one thing. I asked Darla if she could get feedback from the staff on how the phone call situation has been going on, so.
We have a report?
We do, yeah. Kim, our city clerk, she's the keeper of records, keeper of a lot of information for the city, being that she's out of the office and on vacation the last couple weeks. She'll be back tomorrow. I kind of wanted to see what her level of messages were, in her absence. But in June, how we answer the phone was explained at the commission. It was decided to take away the automated system. And I didn't ask my staff to keep a log, but the complaints, mainly at the front window, started piling up so much that my cashier started keeping a log. I saw her actual log. This is her typewritten notes. Several complaints, some specific. I can scan this in and email it to you all so you can read the comments. No names specifically, but different dates. When it gets June, the 14th of every month is due date for utilities. The couple days prior to that and the 14th, there is literally lines of people in the lobby all day long. Every minute we're open. When you have one due date, we realized that was going to happen. So, we did give online payments. You can do automatic payments out of your checking or savings, the Dropbox. There's several options for people to make their payments. But for whatever reason,
Property tax?
utility billing
Or
payments.
utility bill?
Yep, the 14th of the month is the due date every month. So around
Not
that,
many people come here to pay utility bills. Wonder why?
Well, that was the comment you just made. You would have expected more people would not be paying at the window, that they
Right.
pay through some automated way, and apparently they're not buying into that.
Mostly,
there are a lot signing up
mostly older
for.
people that have a lot of time. That'd be my guess.
They
I'm
probably
not at
look
the
forward
window,
to their
so I-
visit at City Hall, yeah.
Yeah.
Apparently,
Yep.
yeah.
Yep.
Okay. It's an outing.
But there have been quite a few complaints verbally and over the phone at the front window. Why are you answering the phone? I don't know who I want to talk to. I want to listen to my options. And the message that we had on the phone system was, if you need to make a utility payment, press 1. If you need to speak regarding Fernwood Cemetery, it routed you to the right person that handled that. And then if that person wasn't available, you got their answering machine. So people really liked that choice of who they wanted to speak to.
That's not been my experience with feedback from lots of people in
Yep.
town.
So I called Angel today, preparing for this report, and asked her in the last 2 months, so it's been almost 2 full months that we've tried to answer the phone live, how many calls has she received from citizens like she used to? And she hasn't received one phone call she can remember in the last 2 months.
There you go. So sounds like it's been successful.
Not to these people, though. These people want the automated system back.
Well, you can't please everybody.
I know.
But an overwhelming response that I had from several city residents is, why can't somebody answer the phone? Which is, and I kind of agree with them. Some people do like to push a button, some don't.
I get really annoyed when I hear an answering machine. I don't
I
want
hang the
those
phone up.
options.
I hang the phone up.
In fact, I told you at one of our meetings, I said, in the case of you, who's the person I'm going to contact the most, I don't even bother anymore. I do a text message. Because it's very annoying to pick that
Well,
up.
there's two methods. You can also push 00000 until it takes you to a human being because they think you don't know how to use a phone. I've done that before also, but typically I just hang up. It's not.
So Jay, does this answer your question, or
Yeah, if you could just.
scan it in and email it to you? Sure. Yep. Will do.
That was it.
Commissioner Gay.
I have nothing.
Commissioner Mattinen.
I have nothing.
My God. I copied all of you guys and Darla with some dialogue I had with former Commissioner Olson regarding the real estate market. I'm guessing maybe some of you didn't read it. It's real interesting. He owns a condo in Gladstone. Thinks he's got it sold now, and we had a long conversation about growth in the general fund, and I also quoted Commissioner Gay. Commissioner Gay and I have had many conversations about whether we need more revenue or whether we need to market our services better so that the revenue flows in as a natural result of that. So you might want to read that dialogue I had with Commissioner Olson.
I just pulled it up. I haven't opened it
Very
yet.
interesting dialogue. So I copied it to all of you guys and to Darla as well. Today I stopped by City Hall intentionally to see if Mark Pelego is around. He's our new Public Works Electric Department guy, and asked him to sit down and talk with the city manager and I about, first of all, the DPW area where the current garages has been cleaned up. I wanted to know, what was the impetus behind that, and I'd just like to say that I think they've done a really nice job of cleaning up that area. And I talked to him about where he feels the new DPW garage should go, and some of his thoughts on that. And so we had a really good conversation about some of his initial opinions of what he sees. And I would add, by the way, that he's still trying to get his arms around the beast. It's a big job. He's got a lot of things on his plate. Really nice guy, though.
I
And
drove by there today. I was wondering where everything went.
most of it went up on the hill to where the electric department has a warehouse facility.
A lot of
which
it
I
went to the
noted.
junk.
And yes, and they also, without being critical, we have this ability, it seems like, of collecting old vehicles that we haven't used for years there, and we don't make the decision to send them off to scrap. And Mark has made a decision, which I think is a good decision, that a lot of our vehicles that we haven't used for some time because they're old and unsafe, be sent off to scrap. So that's, a lot of it went that way as well.
All right.
But I just thought I'd share that with you guys. And then I have also received a lot of complaints, especially in my old neighborhood, about officers contacting them about parking vehicles that are blocking the public sidewalk. And I expect these people to get a hold of me after the meeting as well. It's my old neighborhood. So I think, just as a general comment, that we still have a lot of learning to do about how that ordinance is going to be enforced.
Well, one thing I can say is that and that's why I asked the question, it was stated that it was going to be complaint driven, and that's why I want to know what is the origin of the complaint.
Whether we're going looking for it or whether somebody's making a complaint
Absolutely.
to us. Yep.
Yep.
Very good. With that, there's not being oh, I saw you glancing at me, and finally it dawned on me you were glancing at me.
I actually was excited to be done, but I just want to, under city clerk comments.
We're all gonna be happy when the city clerk is back. August is a dreaded month for us here in City Hall, because Kim is gone most of it, so we'll be glad to have her back.
Part of what she was doing was related to her son's
Yeah, yeah.
doctor's appointments, and so
And he did very well this year.
excellent.
Exceeded
Very good.
expectations, so.
Very good. With that, having nothing further, we'll adjourn. Thank you for coming.